Hello, everyone. We are starting another demo roundups. I'm Shanda, Community Program Manager at PagerDuty. And here with me today are Maggie and James. They are solutions consultants, and they're here to show you exciting functionalities and capabilities of the PagerDuty Operations Cloud. I am based in Lisbon. Why don't we go around, just say a quick hello before we start? You say, where are you based on today?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Maggie Graves. I am based out of California near Yosemite. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's 8 a.m. for me, and I know for James and Zenda, it's a bit later in the day. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Good to have you, Maggie. What about you, James?
Yeah, hi everyone. Also a pleasure to be here. I am based out of London in the UK, so same time zone as Zenda, but not that close.
Yeah, so we are one in each point of the map, and I hope that the folks joining also. So feel free to share where you're joining us from. If you're in Zoom, in the comments box and LinkedIn as well, raise and say where you're joining us from today. So in today's session, we're here to talk about how PagerDuty can help you to scale service ownership. And just a quick overview of our agenda. I'll be sharing with you some of our PagerDuty Commons announcements and next exciting things to come. Then Maggie will give you the intro to the solutions that we are covering today, and James will show you a hands-on product demo. And then, of course, Q&A throughout all the session. As I said, if you are on Zoom, drop your question in the Q&A box or the comments, and also LinkedIn Live. Share your thoughts and questions in the comments. All right, so in PagerDuty Commons, as you see, I'll take like a blameless plug here. We have the new PagerDuty Commons community, rebranded, new website, new platform, tons of activities for you to engage. And in our series, next 2 weeks from now, we'll have the Bobby and Justin joining us to talk about automation, standardization, and especially workflows automation. November 7th, scan the QR code, sign up, save your virtual spot. And then other exciting events. If you are in the Toronto area, we'll have a user group in the PagerDuty Toronto office. Come chat with our team, come network, and share your stories with other PagerDuty users. That would be October 29th. Then October 30th, we'll have a webinar on Rundeck and process automation, how to take control of orchestration. I'll share all the links in the chat box. Don't worry about it at all. And then if you are in EMEA, we'll have one more meetup for Rundeck by PagerDuty. And this one is Halloween themed, October 31st. Sign up and share your use case automation stories with us. And of course, if you missed some of our past demo roundups, you can check them up in our PagerDuty website on demand. And we are nothing without your experience, your stories. We want to know what you're doing with PagerDuty products. So share your story with us. You can be the next to be spotlighted in social media, or be here with us in one of these webinars. We'll love to hear from you. And let's start this conversation. We don't have to stop here. You can jump in the community forums, PagerDuty Commons, and connect with follow PagerDuty users and enthusiasts at your one-stop hub for real-time operations. Yes, so I think that's all of my announcements. I'll share all the links with you. And now, without further ado, I'll stop sharing. So Maggie would talk to us about scaled services ownership and how PagerDuty can help you with that. Over to you, Maggie, whenever you're ready.
All right. So I won't bore you guys with slides for too long, but today we are going to be going through scaled services ownership. And really, there's 4 major problems that we're seeking to solve. So some of the problems we're seeing are just time wasted coordinating across the various tools, teams, as well as processes. Really no single source of truth. We see teams working out of Jira, ServiceNow, Zendesk, so all different sources of truth, causing it to be quite difficult, as well as difficulty supporting the swarm distributed ops approach, and multiple teams being alerted on different tools due to the same underlying incident. So how can PagerDuty help? We see that we can help through a system of action to modernize your guys' operational excellence and reducing that tool sprawl. We're going to correlate signals across your observability stack to help identify the root cause, as well as provide a single source of truth and documentation for your incidents. We also have dashboards that provide views into the cost, the health, and efficiency of your teams and services across the whole enterprise. And lastly, we're going to enable and promote that modern swarm distributed ops approach versus the costly sequential centralized approach. And there's a reason that we're trusted by more than 65% of the Fortune 100. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to James and we'll get into the demo.
Thanks, Maggie. Let me just pull my screen up. Okay, you should all be able to see mine now. So yeah, thank you for the intro. Like Maggie said, I'm going to go into a bit of a demo here. We'll cover all of the topics that Maggie just touched on there in the previous slide. Quick orientation for you before we begin. On the left-hand side of my screen there, you can see I have got my web browser up, currently open on the PagerDuty web UI. But I have also got my phone hooked up as well. So we'll have a little bit of a look at the PagerDuty mobile app, but for the most part, we'll be on the browser on the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do, I'll trigger off a fake incident. We're going to use that as the basis to explore how PagerDuty can help you, especially with the idea of scaled service ownership. And we'll go throughout the whole life cycle of the incident, from that initial mobilization right through to the end, the resolution, and of course that post-incident learning and analytics side of things as well. So in order to begin, I'm going to have to cause a problem. And over here on this browser tab, I have a customer-facing application. And one of our customers is trying to log in to their account. And as they try and access it, they try and sign in, you can see there's some kind of authentication error coming back. They're not able to access that there. You can see on the right-hand side, my phone has already started going. I'm not sure if you could hear it or not. What I know is that you can't hear the voice on the other end of the phone, currently giving me a quick summary of the problem that's been found, as well as what the impacted service is, but crucially giving me some options to actually start to initiate my response directly from the phone call. So I'm going to press 4, which is my option to acknowledge. So as this goes back to the app, you'll see that that goes from a red to an amber state, so from triggered to acknowledged. So that's me taking ownership of it. It's also going to stop any escalation paths that we had in place, because of course, what would happen if I wasn't available? Well, in that case, it would automatically escalate and notify someone else and keep going until we got someone involved as quickly as we could. As well as receiving that phone call there, you can see I also received a push notification, text message too. Of course, we do emails as well, so it doesn't matter what communication channel you want to use, we can make sure that we can contact you when we need to. So first thing I'm going to do is open this up on my phone. PagerDuty mobile app has pretty much perfect feature parity with our web UI, so you can actually manage and run a response away from your laptop. As you can see in here, I've got lots of information available to me, lots of action that I could start taking. But what I'm going to do first of all is scroll down and take a look at the different alerts that are in here. So this is an example of PagerDuty AIOps doing some pre-processing for me already. So it's looking at the events and alerts that are being ingested and actually starting to correlate them together using machine learning. So what this means for me is rather than having lots and lots of notifications about lots of different problems, PagerDuty is intelligent enough to realize these are all related to the same issue, groups them together. I now have one thing to focus on, and I'm not going to get drowned with noise and notifications as I go on and try and fix this issue. I might switch over onto my browser now and just quickly refresh the page, and you can see, yeah, so we've got a few different problems that have come in here. In the middle, you can see the one which I started to look at on my phone there. That's assigned to myself. And you can see there are those different triggered alerts that we were just looking at on the mobile app. I just want to take a moment and look at this other issue underneath it. I know this isn't assigned to me, but while we're talking about this idea of alert grouping, this is actually a really interesting one. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And straight away at the very top of the screen here, you can see that it's telling me that this is a multi-service group. So we've got multiple alerts originating from different services. And this is an example of one of our newer capabilities around global grouping. So what this means, and if I highlight here in this section, you can see what the impacted services are. What this means is that we're actually able to do alert correlation, not just on a single service, but across multiple different services. So we can start to capture alerts downstream and pull them back upstream. And if I scroll down into my alerts section, you can see outlined in my alerts table, if I highlight this column, you can see all of these alerts coming from various different services, but they've been grouped together in this single issue here. And actually, if you start to look at the title of some of these alerts, you'll start to get an idea of what's actually happened. So what's happened here is we've got a database that's gone down. That's triggered some alerts. A little bit later on, we've had some downstream services that consume that database start to alert the fact that they can't connect to it. But we've been smart enough to capture those downstream, pull them back upstream, and start to do this grouping and correlation onto this service. So we can save other teams getting notified about the problem at source. Just going to switch view now and have a look at my service graph. And the reason I want to do that is because we're talking about scaled service ownership. And one of the key concepts that happens in PagerDuty is this idea of a service. And you heard me mention it multiple times there on that previous screen. So some of you might be sat there wondering, oh, you keep mentioning services and upstream and downstream, and what does this all mean? So I'll just quickly take you through that. So within PagerDuty, we define what we call technical services and business services. And the names, as they suggest, the technical services can be anything technical, whether it's your APIs, your microservices, your infrastructure, containers, anything at all that is technical that you as a team want to respond to problems on. And they will all have interdependencies amongst themselves, but they will all flow up into overarching business services. And the business service really represents the end piece of functionality or the business purpose that those technical services go into supporting. And the reason that we differentiate between the two is that when we start to think about things like stakeholder communication, status updates, status pages, and dashboards, all of that kind of communication we want to do at the business level. Because if we started to send out some updates saying, oh, we've got a Postgres database that has gone down, there's going to be very few people within the organization that really know what that means. But if we can look at the business services that are impacted by that going down, we can start to say, okay, we've got a problem with our website, with our mobile app and our user accounts. And that's what non-technical people are going to be able to understand. So that's why we differentiate between the two. And actually, if you start to look at the scope of the problem within this view right now, you can see we've got kind of a fairly restricted scope in terms of how far this has spread from a technical perspective. We've got a couple of different services there that are impacted. But you can see from a business standpoint, we've got multiple different business services that are impacted by this because of the way that all of our dependencies work within our organization. And that's critical to understanding what's the technical scope, but also how far does this spread from a business standpoint. Now, how does this all relate to scaled service ownership? Well, one of the key things in PagerDuty is the idea of full service ownership, and that different teams will be responsible for their services, and they have complete control over how to manage and organize and control the content within their teams and their services and their remit. But crucially, as you can see from this view, the teams aren't working in silos. So that cross-team collaboration is really easy. You can see how all the dependencies between different teams and different services connect and works. So in terms of being scalable, this allows us to ingest events from fewer integration points and actually start to route those events to various different teams, different services, and allows us to scale really easily without exponentially increasing the number of integration points that we have. Okay, going to switch back over to the incident that we were looking at a few minutes ago. And I'm going to open the one that was assigned to me originally up and take a look at it in the web UI here. Now, typically at this point, right, so PagerDuty has notified us of this problem. We can see there's multiple alerts that have been correlated together. Ordinarily, one of the first things you would do is start to do all of your gathering of diagnostic information. Maybe you want to get some logs, maybe you want to do some various different checks on other services or endpoints and make sure everything's working as it should and try and understand where the problem may have originated. But what PagerDuty has already done in this case is actually start to automate all of that for us. And you can see over on the right-hand side here in my notes section, I've already got the results of a set of health checks that have been run for me. So by the time I got that phone call and opened this up, half of my work has already been done for me. And I can see via the visual indicators there, lots of big red crosses. Clearly, there's a bit of an issue with that Kubernetes cluster that sits behind this service. So already getting an idea of where to go and explore further or where this may have started from. I mentioned things like pulling logs as well. So obviously those wouldn't fit nicely in a side panel like those health checks, but we can actually still attach those into a single location as well. And if I open up my automation log here, you can see here I've got some system logs. Have a look through these. Are there any errors? Are there any leading indicators as to what's gone wrong? So using automation to help augment our response can really, really drill down and save us time, especially in that initial triage and diagnosis phase. So, steps like these, you could be saving yourselves, 15 minutes, half an hour, which in the context of a major outage is absolutely vital time. Just going to scroll back up to the top here. You may have noticed that right at the top, I'll highlight it actually so it's easier to see. We've got various links out to other integration tools that we have linked with. And Maggie talked about this in the intro there about you've got different people working in different tools. Where is that single source of truth come from? And actually, in this example, what we've got here is PagerDuty automatically generating all these records in different systems that different teams work in, but constantly keeping them up to date. As information comes through, we will sync that through to all of those different records. But also these links are all bi-directional as well. So if somebody working in Jira makes an update, that will come through to PagerDuty. We will then update the other systems with the update that came from Jira. So everything stays in sync and your records are all really, really well aligned. Let's take a look at one in a bit more detail though. So you can see we've got our ServiceNow record there. Let's go and open that up and take a look. So you can see in here, we've created this corresponding ServiceNow record automatically. And if I scroll down to the activity, you can see there's lots of interesting information in here as well. So it's not just a case of opening a ticket and having a marker in there, but actually continuously adding useful information and enriching that record in ServiceNow. And you can see here, we've even got the results of those automated jobs that finished earlier. As well as that, we can do things like start to expose PagerDuty functionality into these other tools. So you can see at the top there, I've got the ability to actually start taking PagerDuty actions like adding responders or sending status updates, even going as far as to running automation and workflows. And then the final thing I'll just briefly highlight in here is the fact that we have custom fields that are also synced from PagerDuty into ServiceNow. Now, no ServiceNow setup is the same, so we can actually start to use that custom field values and actually sync that data across. And of course, as you'd expect, this is bidirectional as well. So if I start to update these in ServiceNow, that will get synced back across to PagerDuty. You can see at the top there, one of the things we've done is AIOps has been able to identify the impacted region from the alert data. That's been saved as a custom value in PagerDuty and then synced across automatically into ServiceNow. Really, really useful information to capture. I'm going to go ahead and update this field here, number of users impacted. Imagine we're starting to get a sense for how many people have been affected by this. I'm going to go ahead and update that in ServiceNow here. And yet, as you'd expect, what that's going to do is replicate that piece of information back across into the PagerDuty custom field. So if we go back over to PagerDuty, we'll see here that that has come back across. You can see number of users impacted has now been defined. That's great, but there's another reason why I'm showing you this. And that's because with PagerDuty, we can actually now start to combine custom field values with more advanced capabilities like incident workflows. So as well as using that data for things like populating ServiceNow, we can actually start to trigger workflows based on the value of that data. And if I go down to my timeline here, you can see we've had an incident workflow triggered automatically. In this case, it's posted to our status page. So we've set up a value within that custom field to say, once it goes above a certain threshold, I want to trigger this workflow automatically, because we need to start putting the word out there to our other customers that we're actually starting to experience problems. And a PagerDuty status page is a great way to do that kind of mass communication and visibility with your customer base, whether it's an internal customer or an external customer. So I've got an example page over here. And you can see here, we've got our various different services outlined within the page. What's their uptime, historical uptime been like as well. Of course, you can tweak this page, add your own logo, branding, etc. Even use it, as you can see there, for things like maintenance windows as well. But if I actually refresh this, we should see that we've now got an issue that's been posted here. So we've got an issue impacted our user accounts, saying that some customers are experiencing problems logging in. Now that's great, but obviously we're not reliant on people coming to visit the page to know about this. And behind the scenes, we will actually send notifications out to the potentially tens of thousands of subscribers that are subscribed to this page or some of the services within this page. So it's a really critical part of getting ahead of the curve, giving your customers a better experience so they find out about things from you rather than themselves, but also deflecting the number of support calls or support tickets that get logged within your organization about a single problem. Okay, so we've put word out to our customers that we're having a bit of a problem. I'm going to go back into the incident. We've done our diagnostic checks. We've put word out to our customers. We know that people can't access their accounts, and it seems to be impacting quite a large number of people. Maybe at this point, we make the decision to declare this as a major incident. So I'm going to go ahead and change my incident type. So this is a new concept within PagerDuty. So you can see this originated as what we call a base incident, so the default incident type. I have another incident type that I can change it to, which is our major incident type. Now, as I go and do that, the first thing it's going to say is there are going to be some custom field changes, because within the major incident type, there's some extra pieces of information that we want to try and capture for all major incidents. In this case, things like what were the mitigation and resolution steps, what's the status of our post-incident review. But as I go and change that type, not only will those extra fields get added to make sure we're capturing that information, but it's triggering another automated workflow. So we have defined a major incident workflow that we want to execute every single time we see a major incident. And that's going to carry out a predefined set of actions for us. You may have seen on the screen, things are starting to happen. I'm starting to get messages on my phone as well. But the easiest way to see this is if I just scroll down and take you to the timeline. and we can sort of see this all playing out. You can see down here, I triggered my major incident workflow via a conditional trigger. First thing it did there was create a dedicated Slack channel for the incident and then added people into the channel. It then went out and brought in some specific people to join us on the incident. So people that we want to be involved in every time. So in this case, someone from our ops leads team. We can also start to do things like assign roles. So bring someone in as a specific role. So in this case, we've brought Logan in as the incident commander. And having these defined roles and responsibilities really helps to bring organization and structure into the management of the incident. And I'll touch more on this in a couple of minutes as well. We've also brought in various different teams as stakeholders. So we've got our exec leadership team, our security team, the customer services team. These are people that we want to be giving transparent updates to, give them visibility of what's going on, but we're not going to have them involved in the actual technical resolution. And then we've even actually pushed out an update to those subscribers just to let them know what's happening. We also can create dedicated Teams chats as well. We've created a dedicated Teams meeting and added the people into that. So all of these different tasks were executed automatically for me in a consistent way every time. And I don't need to cross-reference a runbook and remember to manually tick off all these tasks. This is just an example list. It's not exhaustive, of course. But workflows are a really nice way to start to standardize and automate all of your processes throughout an incident. So far, we've been looking at this through the web UI, a little bit of time on the mobile app. But I think the reality is for most people, they're probably going to be working either in Microsoft Teams or in Slack. And of course, for us at PagerDuty, that's absolutely fine. If I go over to Slack now, we can see in here, well, a few different things actually. First of all, we've got our major incidents channel here. So we pushed as part of that workflow, a stakeholder update into this major incidents channel. We can even pull in custom field information. As you can see, we've got the impacted region. We can share things like what's the conference URL or the dedicated Slack channel if that's information that you want to make public. And then we can even do things like, do you want to pin messages as well? So we've pinned that update in the channel too. You can see here though, incident number 4197, this is the dedicated incident Slack channel that we created as part of that workflow. And first thing you'll notice is we've got the PagerDuty card with all of our quick actions. Crucially now, this is automatically pinned. So as the chat happens and the ongoing response goes and you get further and further down the page, you don't need to keep scrolling back up. That's going to be constantly pinned there for quick access. And as I said before, you don't need to go into the PagerDuty UI. You've got all of the actions and information that you need right here in Slack. So you can see we've got Logan Gaines there as the incident commander, but maybe we want to bring someone else in and assign them a role. So let's go ahead and assign our communications lead. I'm going to send that as Andrea Case. And you can see there that's updated on the card there. But this isn't just adding a value to a field. It's much smarter than that. It's actually gone out and contacted Andrea Case and through whatever their notification preferences are to tell them you have been requested to come and join this incident as the communications lead. We can also start to manage and assign tasks and track progress of those. And if I open up my task list, you can see we've already got a couple of tasks that were added by that workflow. So confirm what our impacted regions are. I'm going to take that and say that that's in progress. So all of these extra management tasks, we can start to bring organization and structure to the ongoing response. And actually, all of this will help to kind of bring order to the chaos and make sure everybody's got these defined roles and responsibilities, and we can actually get through this as quickly as possible. One of the other newer things that we can do with our advanced workflows is introduce logic actions, so things like timers, loops, and conditionals. And actually, if I scroll down a little bit, we'll start to see here, we've got a status update reminder that's come into the Slack channel. So this is actually going to come in every half an hour and just remind us that we should probably be thinking about sending out a status update. And of course, I can do this directly from the reminder itself. So I got the option to actually push this update out directly from Slack, add the information I need, and that's going to go to all of those different subscribers that we added through the workflow, plus anybody who's self-subscribed to any of the impacted services from this issue. Now imagine at this point, when this major incident workflow went, you were one of the people that got brought in as an extra responder. So you're brought in, this has potentially been ongoing for an hour or so at this point, and you don't really have any background or context as to what's been going on. Well, what we can do is start to make use of PagerDuty Advance. So PagerDuty Advance is our new GenAI virtual responder, and we can start to use it to help give us insight and tips and suggestions as to how we should proceed here. So first thing I'm going to do is say, hey, can you just catch me up? I'm new to this incident. Advance obviously has access to all of the information that it needs through the very first alerts that flowed through, right through to any of the actions that were taken, any of the chat that's happened in the Slack channel as well. So it can digest all of that and give me a really quick summary about what's happened and what the progress is. You can see it's also giving me some other suggestions of how I might want to interact with it. So maybe at this point, it's a good time to say, well, have we actually seen this issue before, right? One of the first questions you probably would have asked actually is, have we seen this before? And if we have, well, what did we do last time we saw it? You can see it's brought back, here are the top 3 past similar incidents. But more importantly, it's actually brought us back what the previous resolution steps involved, because really that's the part that we care about. So it says previous resolutions involved forming rollback of a recent change. Okay, well, have we had any recent changes? Has anything changed? I can ask Advance that. And again, it's going to go away and find that out for me. And you can see indeed, yeah, there were 1 or 2 changes pushed out a few hours ago. So all of this information from PagerDuty AI Ops is brought through into Slack via PagerDuty Advance, and we can have it at our fingertips immediately. Okay, so with all of this information in mind, maybe that's what we want to do this time. Let's take the same action that we saw previously and maybe roll back that change that was pushed out a couple of hours ago. And of course, with PagerDuty automation, you can start to automate more complex tasks as well and start to take remedial action directly from Slack or directly from your mobile phone. And of course, I happen to have an automation action to actually roll back changes on this service. So I'm going to go ahead and execute that. Now I could do it through my Slack here, through running a workflow here, or I could do it through my mobile app. Let's do it on the phone. So I'll open my automation actions that I have available. You can see I've got various different ones down at the bottom here. I think, yeah, I've got my rollback last deploy. So I'm going to go ahead and run that. And while I wait for that to do its thing, oh, looks like that has actually worked in incredibly quick time. One of the things that is crucial to being able to scale properly is being able to understand how you're performing as an organization and also making sure you're continuously learning from problems that you've seen. So there's really 2 parts to that. The first is, are you conducting post-incident reviews, especially when you have major problems? Are you learning from what's happened before? And then the second part of that is, are you using analytical data to understand how you're performing and starting to track that performance over time? So just to finish up with, I'm going to cover off each part of that. You can see in the Slack channel, actually, not long after the incident was resolved, PD Advance has given us a quick, almost a mini post-mortem immediately, telling us exactly what happened, what the actions and decisions were, and how the incident was resolved. But the first thing I want to do in terms of this continuous learning part is conduct a post-incident review. And I'm going to do this using Jelly. So Jelly is a comprehensive post-incident review platform that allows us to really dig in and understand what happened, and then start to take a holistic view of these reviews over time and start identifying trends and patterns. So in order to do that, I can just directly from the Slack channel say Jelly import. And this is going to give me the opportunity to actually create a new review in Jelly. Quick word on terminology here. You can see it's saying, do I want to create an opportunity? So of course, we call this an opportunity because it's an opportunity to learn. So I'm going to create a new one. There's going to be a few different questions about where do I want to grab the data from, who has access, what do I want to call it, etc. But ultimately, Jelly is going to go away and pull all of the information that we have from PagerDuty, from the Slack channel, and create a review for us using that data. So in a few minutes, I'll get a link back into this channel with this newly generated review. I'm just going to flip over into the Jelly UI though, and do a proper here's one I made earlier scenario. So you can see with the Jelly post-incident review or the Jelly opportunity, there's a few different key parts to it. So we have our auto tagging, which is where we use AI to actually analyze the content of the review and start automatically tagging data points within it. And this actually goes hand in hand with being then able to identify trends and patterns of data over time. We have our people that were involved. And if I scroll down here, you can see one of the things that we actually do is not just tag who was involved, but how much was their participation pattern in the incident. So you can see we've got in this example about 6 different people that were in it. Only 3 really had much participation. So we can actually start to understand who was really involved and who wasn't. The key part, though, is really in this narrative section. So within this part, we start to build up a picture of what happened, and we split that into various different phases of the incident lifecycle. So we've got our detection, our diagnosis, our repair, and any other key moments throughout the incident. And you can see that with this kind of waterfall structure, that the incident isn't linear. We have some detection, some diagnosis, some attempted repair. That obviously didn't work. So we go back to a bit more detection, another attempted repair, a bit more diagnosis, and then finally we did some repair that actually seemed to fix the issue. So you can start to actually build up a really interesting picture of how the incident unfolded. And of course, we have Gen AI to help build this out and speed up that process as well. In the Learning Center, this is where we can start to take a more holistic view of what's going on. So what's the participation pattern? What's the distribution of opportunities looking like over time? Or who's participating or what their tenure was? Those tags that were automatically added that I mentioned a minute ago, this is where we can start to drill into that data and see maybe which technologies are involved. Do we have certain problem areas that we can start to look at and work on? Who's on call and who's participating that isn't on call? A really interesting question or really interesting data point, because if you're seeing lots of people who weren't on call being involved, this is an indication that you're having lots of escalations or SMEs that are being pulled in into those incidents. And then the final piece of the puzzle that goes hand in hand with all of this is using the PagerDuty analytics to understand how you are tracking as an organization. So we have within PagerDuty lots of pre-built dashboards and reports that you can consume. But of course, you can also pull the data over the API as well. If you want to take that and put it into your own reporting tools, that's absolutely fine, not a problem. I'm just going to highlight a couple quickly at a high level. So this is our overview dashboard, gives us information about what's the volume of incidents that we're seeing over time, how are our acknowledgement rates, our resolution times, do we have any particular problem services? So you can see uptime by service here. I've got one that probably needs a bit of TLC there. And of course, we can cut this data in different ways. Do we want to look at specific teams, specific services, only high priority incidents, and of course, various different time ranges as well. And we also have our insights report where you can start to delve in a little bit deeper into all of this, various different verticals that we can look at. So do we want to look at things from an incident perspective or services, individuals, teams? We can start to do things like sort and filter. So show me only the high priority incidents where we breached our SLAs, for example. And if I switch over to the responder tab, we can start to ask questions like, who on our team is maybe at risk from burnout? Who's bearing the brunt of the workload? How long have different people spent on call or been escalated to? Or what's the out of hour interruption rate of all of our different team members? So all of this data is available to you to really understand how you're performing, how at an organizational level, at a service level, at a team level, and also at an individual level as well. Okay, so I've taken you through from that initial incident triggering to the mobilization of getting people involved, looking at how we can use automation to speed up the initial diagnosis phase, then using automated workflows to take care of a lot of the manual incident management steps there might be, and seeing how all of this works with all the various different tools and technologies that we're using as well. And then finally, we had a look at how we can start to build out those post-incident reviews and use analytical data to support that continuous learning cycle. That's all I had planned to show you for today from a demo perspective. I hope you enjoyed it. We do still have a few minutes left, so we can open up for any questions that we might have.
Yeah, well, James, that's pretty cool. Thanks for showing us all the life cycle from the time you create an incident to the time you close it out and how you involve all the teams. It's pretty cool to see the beginning to an end. I have a question. I know you mentioned how some organizations, they have like fragmented incident management processes, right? Like how siloed the teams are. So can you share, do you have any resources that can help these organizations who want to go from, a more like a centralized to a more distributed model? Like,
Yeah, absolutely. We have lots of helpful information on that, actually. In fact, if you go to ownership.pagerduty.com, we have a whole guide about how you can start to embrace the full service ownership model. It's open source. It's relevant to people, whether you're a PagerDuty customer or not. It's not PagerDuty specific. It's more about how you structure yourself and your team and considerations you want to make when you do move to that model. So that's a great resource. And yeah, I'll put that in the chat as well.
okay, I'm dropping here. I went myself and checked. Thanks for sharing.
You're one step ahead. Thanks, Chenda.
I know I also talked to the PagerDuty University folks, and they recommended on-demand free course on full service ownership that you all can take. It's free, it's on demand. You have plenty of resources there, so you can dive in like in your own pace into all the concepts. So I'll also drop that in the chat. And then I have another question, actually. So I know that so each team will be in charge of the services and all, but like how much autonomy do different teams have in the PagerDuty environment?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And it really ties back to this idea of scaling and scaled service ownership, which we began the session talking about. So within PagerDuty, everything revolves around the team. You have your own team's objects. We have role-based access control on a team-based level. So you have access to your team's items, but depending on your level of responsibility within the team, you might have more or less access. And of course, because everything's on a team basis, you wouldn't have access to other teams' data that you shouldn't necessarily. We even go as far as to having the option, if you want or you need to, you can actually make your own team completely private. So you can be completely separated off, even working within the same environment. So yeah, one of the great things about that model is that you do have complete autonomy.
Yeah, so it depends on how much visibility you want to give to others, and also it's a lot of flexibility in that.
Yeah, exactly.
I see we have a question here in the chat from someone who is currently in trial mode. And the question is, how can we pay PagerDuty via AWS Marketplace?
Yeah, that is absolutely possible. You can purchase PagerDuty through AWS Marketplace, and I think we'll be able to share some more details on that afterwards.
All right, that was a question from Andy from Vietnam. So I couldn't see the name before. Sorry. Okay, cool. Maggie, do you have any considerations or like questions or talking points that you would like to share with us so we can close out?
Yeah, so Jelly's new functionality, the post-incident reviews, that's a huge thing that a lot of customers of PagerDuty have been asking for. So just wanted to call that out, that the Jelly post-incident reviews really allow you to do great analysis of what happened during the incident and what the takeaways are, and also allow you to use generative AI to help identify that timeline piece. So I just wanted to call that out because that's new and exciting functionality. And James, you did a great job walking through everything in the demo today. So really appreciate that.
Cool. Thanks, Maggie. Yeah, so we have another question before we go. So Jack says, do you have a link of recommended standards on what you've shown today?
Yeah, so there's a few things that might help you there, Jack. So some of the analytics reports, I didn't show it, but if you go into the analytics section, there's one called operational maturity, and that will actually give you an overview of your organization, and you can structure it by organization as a whole or by different teams, and that will tell you how mature you are as a user and give you guidance and advice on how to increase your level of maturity. So that would be the first place I would go. And we also have indicators on individual services as well as to how many of our best practice points you're following. So you can see, you might say there's a little graph on the right hand side of each service that might say, oh, you've got 2 out of 8 of our recommended best practices done. So there would be the first 2 points of call that I would point you to.
Great. Thank you, James. I know that Lee is here, active in the chat, so I'm Director of Solutions Consultants. I also have a bunch of resources I would like to share with you. So we have, as I said, the free on-demand PagerDuty course that you can take on full service ownership. You can start your trial if you're not familiarized with the product. If you're not a user yet, you can start your 14-day trial today and check out all the capabilities that we showed today. And also we have a new solution brief that you can download for free on scaled service ownership. And this conversation, I don't need to end here. We can continue it in the PagerDuty Commons, join the community, and check out for tips and share experiences there. Then we'll have a survey after this, so it's very important to hear from you. And yes, I think I'll close out the sessions today. Thank you, James. Thank you, Maggie. Thanks for everyone tuning in. We had technical issue with LinkedIn, but I'm glad that you guys joined on Zoom. We'll have the on-demand recording later on, so you can watch as many times as you want. We'll be sharing with you all, and I will see you again November 7th with Bobby and Justin on automation standardization. We'll be talking about workflows automation. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, James, for being here today.